Oh, hello. Welcome to Work Liberated. And today's episode is called The 5-Star Work Experience with Jeanna Gabellini. Jeanna, say hi.
Hello to all the peoples.
So Jeanna is the second coach I had in my career, and she is the person when I owned a recruiting company in Chicago. I had a coach, and that coach fired me. I've never been fired by a coach, but she said, you need to be with my coach. And so that's how I got Jeanna. And Jeanna helped me get unstuck. I was in a career that I was very, very successful at, but I was no longer fulfilled. And I sought her out to help me see what I couldn't see so I could be who I've always been meant to be. So Jeanna, do you want to just say a little bit about your coaching practice and where it was 15 years ago and where it is now?
Oh my goodness. I don't even remember what was going on 15 years ago. That seems like decades.
What's going on?
Yeah, since then we have moved to like more online digital. We're more tech savvy now, but our main focus is just helping clients have a 5-star experience as entrepreneurs. I mostly serve entrepreneurs, but I serve everybody who's from I'm just starting a business to I have someone who is a multi-billionaire, and we're just coaching on happiness and wealth set points and things like that. Because no matter how much money you make, it's really about being happy, right? In the end.
Yeah. And one of the things that I remember is I actually started doing a morning ritual because of your coaching. I still remember I think I was actually going through a divorce, and you said something to me about it's my, like, everything is my experience and I'm responsible for it. So whatever I can do to get myself in a good space. And that's when I started doing my morning ritual. So what would you say is required for people to have a 5-star experience in their career, a 5-star work experience?
Well, I think that we all start out with these grand ambitions, like, okay, it's going to be awesome. And then reality hits, or we're either in a business or a workplace. And at first it's all exciting because it's new and we're feeling things out. And then somewhere along the lines, it becomes routine. And I think that we actually drop the ball on even remembering that we chose to have an extraordinary experience. You know, we were excited when we first said yes to whatever it is that we said yes to. So I think we have to constantly choose in. Yeah, I want a 5-star experience. I don't want no ho-hum, meh, this is okay, it's fine kind of response to my daily thing, because that becomes a grind, even if it's not bad per se. You know, just kind of going in a routine or where you're checking things off a list because there's something you have to do versus something you want to do becomes a grind. It becomes unfulfilling. It's stressful. And sometimes we don't even realize things are like, okay, meaning okay, like meh, you know, that kind of flat line.
Yeah.
You notice when we're stressed, but I actually think there's a lot of silent killers that keep us from a 5-star experience because it's not bad. And we end up just tolerating little things over time. And by the time we wake up and we're like, what am I doing? We've waited so long. We're actually pissed off now and we didn't even know it.
Yeah. I remember that I was doing really well in my career, but it was, I knew there was something missing for me. I wanted actually to do more. I had been doing recruiting in one version or another, started in staffing and then went into search, but for almost 20 years. And I would always coach people, don't leave after you're pissed off, because then you won't actually be in the good frame of mind to find the right job. It'll be that negativity that does the looking. For me, I waited until I was so eager to jump. So I had a vision. I had done a program, and I had a 2.5-day experience. And at the very beginning of the program, they took us 20 years into the future. And my future was I was going to live in Northern California, and I was going to work with CEOs on helping their company be the kind of company that they would enjoy again. And I realized I was living in not enjoying my own company. And then you came into my life and you had me see that I was thinking linearly, like 1 + 1 = 2. And that wasn't working for me. Can you say a little bit about how people, that version of getting stuck, of the linear, if I do this, that'll happen?
Yeah, I think that we rely on reality to inform us. And I think the only way that we should look at reality, meaning like what's in our environment now or what's happened from the past, is to say, was it a turn on or was it not? Because if it wasn't a turn on, what the hell do I want instead? Like if we base our choices on information that's right in front of us, we're probably not going to really have 5-star. We won't even think that exists, that possibility exists, because I'll tell a story. So I have a client that used to be a producer at the ESPN network. And, big corporation, lots of rules, as most corporations have policies. And she's like, another California story, interestingly enough, was in New York. I want to move to, California. And how are they going to approve that, though? Because I'm going to have to move my whole team. And that, I don't think they're going to go for it. I'm like, how do you know? Because that's not the way they do it here. I'm like, well, why don't you just create the bit? Let's imagine they were going to say yes. What would that whole thing look like if you could have cherry pick the people on your team? You could pick the city, the whole shebang. If it was that 5-star experience, what would that look like? Well, yeah, there was a little bit of asking, a little bit of people on the other end going like, what? Okay, we've never done this before. And yet in the end, less than a year later, her and her entire team moved to, I think, Venice Beach, that area. And that's where she ended up working and producing from there. But if she would have let reality inform her, like, this is the way it's done, she would have never asked. It's kind of like COVID, right?
Yeah.
When COVID came, like, oh, yeah, we don't let our people work from home. Oh, really? Now see how it's all working now?
Well, you'd be surprised at how many CEOs are demanding people come back, which is a big, fat mistake. And why there's so many people saying, I'm opting out. I'm going to be part of the masses in the Great Resignation. When the reality is, Beijing just shut down again Monday after we have no masks on airplanes. I'm getting on the airplane from Hawaii and there's an alert that Beijing is under shutdown for another version of COVID. It could be to infinity. So what do you feel about, or what are you experiencing, or what have you heard in the term of the Great Resignation of people leaving their corporate jobs in higher numbers than statistics have ever seen?
I think that we have all been operating under all these policies and the way that it's been. And it's gotten complicated, and people don't put, like, what makes our people happy. I know you know this, we're preaching to the choir here, but if I'm happy when I show up someplace, I'm going to do a kick-ass job.
Yeah.
And my heart is going to be in it. I want to do good, because what I noticed, like, I have a team. Everybody on my team, I don't have to cajole them to perform. They are so amazing. I'm like, these people blow my mind, because I'm not a great leader. I'm a visionary. I'm not a great leader, but they all show up because they are freaking fired up to do the best that they can do for our clients. And I don't have to corral them in order to do it. I think in general, most people want to do good for the company they work. They want to be of service. They want to kick butt. They want to perform. They want to be a badass. They want to be like, check that out. I just accomplished that. This is awesome. And I think that we've just kind of forgotten all that. We just get lost in what is and making money. And, if we want to get more out of people, we gotta squeeze them.
Or control them.
Yeah.
Control them. They so many folks actually think people are producing less when they're not in the office. And what they don't realize is that when they're in the office, there's all that distraction and all that, I call it mufflick, like crap under the bed. They're just like dog hair in the way. So we talked earlier, and we were talking about things that I can do right now to have a 5-star experience, no matter where I'm working. Maybe it's not perfect, but I'm not ready to go do my own thing or become part of the entrepreneurial movement. How can I create a 5-star experience wherever I am and whoever I am?
So step one is just, I would write 2 lists. Even if you've gone over this a million times in your head, I think we need to do it often, which is, okay, what about where I'm at is not a 5-star experience? What are those things I'm experiencing? How am I feeling? Why? And then what parts are 5-star? Because most people, obviously, we tend to focus on what's not working because it's blaring, right? Like, I remember, every time I used to speak at a crowd, I would focus on that one person who looked bored. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so boring. These people are getting no value out of what I'm saying. And then later they would come up to me after, including the person that looked like they were absolutely bored. And they're like, wow, that was just really informative. I'm like, oh my gosh, I so made up a story because I just focused on you looking like you were bored. But so what is working, what's not working, and even the stuff that is working, if I were to ask myself, how could that be even more epic? How could I have that 5-star happy ending with that particular part of what we're doing? What would that look like? Because I think even sometimes the things that we think are good, if it's good, then we don't generally ask, like, how could it be even better? What would make it even more exciting, more easy, more efficient, more organized, more inspiring? But I think we just it's like a simple what assessments. And then we don't I wouldn't go out and say, change it all right now. I pick 1 or 2 things that you could say, all right, if it were about me making internal shifts, meaning maybe I need to change my mindset about it. Maybe I need to have a conversation with someone. And also asking myself, well, what am I expecting? So what I mean by that is reality, right? If we have an experience that happens over and over and over, we just kind of come to the party with that expectation that this is how it goes. And I remember I had this client who was not exactly open. And she would ask me questions and I would give her like what I thought was great advice. And then it required her to open her mind, think different. And I could tell, even though I couldn't see her, this was before Zoom, she would have her arms. I felt like she was crossing her arms and going like, this chick does not know what she's talking about. And I am not doing it because it's not going to work. And I thought, you know what? I'm getting mad. I'm not enjoying this. I don't feel like this person has an open mind. They really don't want to change. They want to just keep doing what they're doing and expecting different results. And that doesn't work for me. And I realized, I said, I'm going to fire this client. And I thought about it. I said, wait a minute. Well, what? Every time I get on a call with her, I'm expecting pushback. I come ready to brace myself. I don't look in my schedule book and I don't get excited. I'm like, oh, it's that person. Right? That's not how you want to be. And so I said, well, what if I had a different expectation of her? What does it look like if she were to show up and be a 5-star client? What would that look like? And how would I be if I'm being a 5-star coach? Because right now I'm being a crappy coach. I'm showing up expecting her to like be closed down. And so I come in treating her like she's closed down. Yeah. So I kind of just, before my next call with her, I just wrote out, what would it be like to have a 5-star experience with her? If I could have anything I wanted, pretending like I didn't know the way she was before, what would that look like? I wrote it all down, came to the call. Weirdly enough, I had a totally different experience of her. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. I shifted the way that I came to the party and her energy changed and I didn't even have to do anything. I still coach that person to this day. That was probably about 10 years ago. That person's become a great client, amazing, because I decided to expect something different. Now, that's not going to work in all cases, but what we can expect is to find a solution. We can expect to find a different way of doing it. We can expect to have a different reaction from someone if we show up with a different energy. So I think there's a lot that we can do to impact the environment, and not expecting changes to be overnight. I think that's where we fall down a lot. Like we're like, okay, well, I had the conversation with so-and-so How come they're not doing it different yet?
So there's several things I want to pick apart. First thing, you describe a 5-star experience as being organized. I get it, like 5-star fun, but mostly when I hear the word organized or systems, I don't think 5-star. I think, well, I'm a free bird and I want a free bird experience. But really in the culture work that we do, most of the stress that is caused with people working with other people is because there's breakdowns in communication, there's issues with follow-up, there's too much work being expelled for too little result. And so I find it interesting when a performance coach like you, and I also look at you as a possibility coach because you help me see things and do things that I was waiting for a sign to do, like permission from someone, like God, hello, you can go do that. And I was like waiting for nothing. I was the only one I was waiting for. But this whole concept of organization and workflow process, go into that a little more. Why does that create a 5-star experience for people?
Okay. Just so we're all clear, I used to think the same as you, like, what? I don't want to be confined. I want freedom. I don't want this tightly structured thing. And what I finally realized was systems and structure and organization actually give me freedom because things become repeatable steps. Everybody knows what to expect. And we have this workflow. And it's like, oh, I was creating confusion from me being a free bird. My whole team was confused because I was winging it. Or flying by the seat of my pants, or going like, oh, well, we'll just figure that out later. Well, why don't we just figure out a system? How can we make this the easiest, most flawless experience for everybody involved? Like what? Sometimes it's that out of the box thinking where I go, if we were going to give a 5-star experience to our clients, what's the coolest, most efficient way to have this amazing end outcome for them that doesn't involve all of us doing all the things that we've been doing? Is there a way to automate it maybe?
Yeah.
Is there a really simple way that's automated, but to the client, it actually feels like a customized experience?
Yeah. So I hear you saying removing friction from the ability to deliver services and even removing friction from the team. And I also know a lot of my clients, let's say, who've moved beyond being entrepreneur, like their business is way bigger than them now, but they haven't changed their habit around, I need freedom and we don't want constraints. And what they realize is they're unintentionally causing disruption to people, like happened with you. And God knows it's happened in all of my companies. And in this company, we're using HubSpot, we're using Basecamp, and that's become the way we do things. And there's so much less aggravation. Things flow. Communication is easy.
Yeah. And a system can literally be, okay, like I write a newsletter that goes out to my whole email list every Tuesday, where before it was like, when I feel like it, or, oh, I've decided I'm doing it. Hey, team, hurry up and get this out because I've decided now is the time. Like, no, every Tuesday it goes out like clockwork. So I know, and they know, everybody knows what to expect. And because we know it's going out, I have the inspiration kind of working behind the scenes too. What are we going to write about this week? It's kind of working itself out because it knows it has a deadline versus, yeah, when I get to it, I'll get to it.
Yeah. Yeah. So it lifts the burden of that last minute chaos, white tornado,
yeah.
Which really doesn't even work for the person creating the tornado because then they're aggravated because things are not getting done in the way that they want things to get done.
Yeah.
So the second thing that you talked about is looking at yourself, what's working and not working in this work experience, and how can I show up differently? Now, self-awareness is one of the traits that the majority of the human race doesn't have. I'm writing a book called Ignite Culture, titled Ignite Culture. And we did some research, and it said, whether the research is accurate or not, the research that we found, 85% of people in the human race don't understand what it is to have a higher level of consciousness, like awake and aware even to what you do like, even awake and aware of what you don't like, versus most people just wake up and say, God, I don't like it here anymore. So how can people get more self-aware?
Take the pause. We all have our body lets us know when we're feeling stressed or something's feeling off, or you're like, I don't like this idea and everybody else seems to be going along with it, but there's something about it that doesn't feel right to me. Like our body's constantly giving us signs. And yet most of the time we don't pause long enough to say, hold on, I don't care if we stop this whole train from taking off on time. I need to figure out what's going on inside of me. So if we just pause. So, but for instance, this doesn't have to do with work, but we all experience this. We're about to close on a property that's an Airbnb. And I've been kind of doing the whole transaction, and we're just about to sign all the papers. It's about to get funded. And my man all of a sudden decides to get involved. And he's like this whirling dervish coming through. And he's like, hold on, I think we should change the deal and blah, blah, blah. And I instantly went into panic. Like, oh my God, I'm not going through this loan process again, especially as an entrepreneur. It's just a nightmare. I'm like, it's just, I want this off my plate. And then I didn't understand what he was saying. He was going so fast with this whole strategy he was talking about. And of course, he'd been like knee deep in it for hours, talking to people, getting information, and he throws it at me. And I'm like, hold on, I can't digest this. What's happening? And my whole body was like contracting. And I was like, okay, I'm in panic mode. And I took a step back and I'm like, okay, why am I panicked? And I said, I don't understand what he's talking about. 2, I'm afraid that the whole deal is going to get canceled and we will have to start the whole loan process again. And I don't think I could handle that. I'd rather overpay by 50 grand to not go through that process again. I don't care. And so I just told him, I said, you need to slow down. I don't understand this. And I want to make sure that we're making a smart deal. And I actually need more information about the loan. And it just took me that moment to pause. And I thought he might get frustrated because he's like, we have to hurry. And I'm like, I'm not hurrying to do anything right now. Because right now, if I make a decision based on how I'm feeling, this is going to be disastrous. And I won't like you if we screw this up. And I think often we actually don't even know what it's that low level anxiety sometimes that's in there is the one that we really just kind of try to ignore. I'm feeling off. I don't know. Something about this doesn't feel good, or I'm procrastinating and I don't know why, but I'm just going to go on Facebook for a while and just try to get on procrastinating. I don't know. And if you just a lot of times I'll notice, why am I going to Facebook right now? Or why am I walking into the kitchen when I have this project in front of me? I'm like, I don't know the next step. Or I'm not sure what to say, or I think I might screw this up. I actually don't know what the outcome would be. Oh, okay. Well, what would I like to have happen with this project? And so it just takes that moment to ask yourself, what is really going on?
Yep, good. So tuning in, stepping back. I remember you're also the first coach in my life that brought up breathing. And, this is years and years and years ago. Now it's like everybody knows, take it, breathe slowly, breathe deep, like the Moody Blues. But tell me why breathing makes a difference for people, just to slow the roll. Why is that important to help people get back in touch with themselves? How does that work?
Well, when we're stressed or we're moving fast, all of our energy is usually focused in the future. We're trying to figure something out. We're trying to make a deadline. We're worried we're not going to hit the target. We're worried the whole thing is going to fall apart, like in my case with the house. Or is this even legal, what we're doing? But it's like you stop the energy flow from going all crazy, like these little tentacles from an octopus, and you bring all that energy back. And now you actually have a moment to think. When you are spinning out into the future, we don't have access to our intuition. We don't have access to the right questions to ask to get a solution, it shuts down all the infinite wisdom that we have access to in all the world. We don't have access to that when we are moving forward out of control in an ungrounded way, which most of us are doing most of the time. Or we're on automatic. We're not even wondering, why are we doing it this way? How am I feeling? Is this okay to keep moving forward with these feelings? And just taking that moment to pause brings all your energy back. You're in the present moment. And all of a sudden, when you ask yourself, why am I procrastinating? The answer is right there. And you're like, oh, well, that makes sense. What's the opposite of that? Oh, well, I would like some clarity on this. Well, what would give me clarity? I need a journal. I need to go for a walk. Let me go jump on the kids' trampoline for a minute. You'll get the weirdest and wackiest ideas that actually help.
Yeah. Yeah. Versus running away from the problem or thinking that it isn't a problem at all. Or you're pushing through because you're the only one that disagrees anyway. So just go along to get along. So tell me more about the 5-star work experience. The first step is making a list of what's working and not working.
And then decide, what would be that epic experience? What would make this so 5-star? I would think, damn, I didn't even know it could be this good. And I like to script things out as if it's already happened. I do that as a daily practice, where I write about an event as if it's already happened. And if I'm writing is our greatest point of focus. So when we're writing, it doesn't allow for a lot of those fears and stuff to come in. You're so focused on what you're writing. That's why I love writing versus just sitting there thinking in your head. But if anything pops up while you're writing, like this is a potential block to that happening, or, this is a potential thing I'm scared that I can't handle, then I'll script in the solution for that. Even if I don't know what the exact answer is, I'm like, I don't know how it figured itself out. Like in the case of this, we just had somebody quit. We never have people quit. It was totally shocking. She was an amazing person on our team. Our clients loved her. We loved her. We were like, she is going to die with us because we're all going to stay together till we all retire. And she quit at this most inopportune time. Everybody was shocked. And I thought, this is terrible. I no longer am a raving fan of hers. And this is bad, but what do I want? I'm like, I don't know how we're going to find a replacement, but whoever that person is going to be, no matter how good we thought she was, this person is going to be even better, even though I don't even see how that's possible. And so I would script about that as if it already happened. It was so easy to find the person. This person was super flexible. She came up with better systems than the old people. Just write about how much more awesome it could be. Within 2 weeks, I didn't post any job wanteds. This person literally said, I see you're doing a new launch of a program. Is there any help that you need? And I said, this is a crazy question, but, and I told her what the position was. And she's like, yeah, you know what? I'm totally interested. I've never been so pleased in all my life. But it came from, how can we turn this into a bad thing into a seriously amazing opportunity? So scripting it out. And then it's about following the little threads of what I just call, inspiration. Like when you get those weird, wacky ideas, like, wow, she's emailing me out of the blue. She's never even done this kind of position before, but I feel like I should ask her. And in fact, I had asked her something similar years ago, this person, and she was like, no. So based on reality of the past, I would have said, this is dumb to ask her. She's already had a clear no, hard line in the sand. No, I'm not interested in that opportunity. And here she said yes. So I think that we have to just then ask, like, who can help us? What does my intuition say? Can Google help? Google's amazing, right? All things live on Google. But asking, how can I make this easy? Who can help me make it easy? What is a great question to ask to lead me to part of the solution? And sometimes there will be no solution in the moment. I don't know how to get that 5-star experience here, but I'm going to decide that I am going to have a 5-star experience before I even know how to create the whole thing, or I don't have a 10-step formula for doing it. But the most impactful thing we can do besides deciding what 5-star would look like would be, I'm actually deciding to have it. I'm going to stop wanting and I'm going to decide to have it.
So it's like a person would actually not just talk about it, but they'd actually feel what it would feel like to have it. And then this shall be, like the point of determination, like this is happening. And so let's say I do all that. I do my list. What's working, what's not working. What does a 5-star experience look like? I journal about it. I create the future. I remember you wrote a book with Jack Canfield, and I've taken two, I think, 7-day-long courses with him. And he taught us, this is years and years and years ago, how to write our affirmations. And it was always writing them as if they've already happened. And so I do that, and then I say, so what do I need to make that happen? I need to talk to these people. I need to do that. And so you could go 2 ways with it. You could be in a job and say, I'm doing all that work, and I'm really clear what I want, and I just don't see how I could have it here. And so then I could go off I could just say, screw it, I quit, which a lot of those people are going to regret that. I think just having emotions have you quit, and then we're going to go into a different kind of economy, and then they're not going to be able to find what they want. But neither here nor there. So they can either just up and quit. They can do what you first suggested, which is what I would suggest as well. What can you do to create a 5-star experience where you're sitting? What can you be responsible for? What do you need to shift? Or the third is go out and do a proactive search. And so I want to first talk about things that people need to consider when they are in a company and they see that there's some really easy things that they could change, but the environment around them is no, that's not the way we do it here.
Right.
It's always been. And I mean, because we're actually in the beginning of a new 1,000 years, the beginning of a new 100 years. And I mean, if we look at what's happened from 1920 to 1980, when I started working, the world changed. So this is 2020, and we're forecasted to kind of repeat the past a little bit, but I don't want to go through what my grandparents went through. So how do I take responsibility in my company when there's a lot of people who are World War II, they were not part of World War II, but they're part of the legacy World War II way we run things. We've got time and attendance, and we have to be in the office Monday through Friday. And how do I deal with that? I like the place. I like what they stand for. I'm into their noble cause, but man, they run the place like...
Yeah, this is where you have to go way out into the lake, way out there, outside of the bubble of what is in your company. And this is where decision comes in very powerful. I don't know how that's even going to be possible, but I'm deciding that policy is changing, or I'm deciding this is happening. It's like, I do it the silent, I'm like, it's not voodoo magic, but it's just like, I'm deciding this is happening and I don't have any clue how. So I'm not going to actually even take any action on it. I'm just deciding somehow or another this will get resolved. Like, we have this cabin up, it's on forest land, and you lease the land from the forest, which means they have all sorts of rules. I hate rules. I hate rules. And they just, their first response to everything you ask that you want to do is no. They say no to everything. I'm like, this lady who's in charge is really hardcore. There was someone else before that was much more lenient and willing to work with us people in these cabins. I'm going to see her leave. We're going to get somebody new in there. I thought this lady was never going to leave. She was a lifer. I'm telling you, it's been 1 year. And I just heard she's moving to a whole different county. And then I heard that the new person on board sounds so human. Human meaning like, great, let's work with you on that dock y'all want to build. Oh, I think the quickest way to do that and to get that permit like put through is this. And I'm like, I know. I totally created this whole scenario because I was so locked onto, I refuse to have a miserable experience with the Forest Service. I didn't buy a cabin here to feel constricted. I came here to have fun. And so I'm going to decide somehow, some way, there's going to be an easier person to work with, whether she got someone new in her office, she moved out. I'm like, this is going to work out. And I am just really clear. Obviously, I can't do anything to go vote this lady out. It doesn't work like that. But it was just that I'm holding on to this because I'm not going to be available to some other way. I'm not going to be miserable. I refuse.
Yeah. So you don't have to do a thing. You just created that things are going to change. And what if you're the impatient type and you want to do something? How do you get people to listen that things need to change? How would an average Jack or Jill who's listening to this podcast and wants to experience liberation at work, but not ready to quit their job, what would you suggest to that person?
Well, first of all, we can't arm twist, explain enough to most often to get people to change, even if it's a really good idea. So with force, it's not going to work. But coming with, I kind of imagine it because I am you and I are very similar. We're like, we have an idea, we're going to get this done and we're going to get it done right now. I'm all about making things happen. Let's do this. And sometimes we're going to bump up against people that feel like a big ass roadblock. And so I try to soften, I literally soften my face because I can get intense and I feel like I'm growling. Is soften the energy. And realize I don't have to make something happen, but I can cause something to happen by first shifting my energy. How do I come in assuming that things are going to change? And then I kind of ignore all roadblocks they keep throwing in my way. I'm like, oh, okay. Okay, I really don't care what they just said. I know in the end, we're going to find a way to make this happen. So there's practical things you can do, but at some point, you're probably going to run out of practical things you can do. And at that point, it's not about pushing. It's when you see the opening. It's about going back, even if you talked to that person many, many, many times before. It's different when you're coming from a place of, wow, I feel like this is a good, I'm feeling good about talking to this person today. I think I'm going to have the conversation again, even though they said not to come back for another 6 months and it's only been 2. I'm just going to check in because I feel like internally guided, like my intuition is saying, I should just check in.
Yeah. So you're talking about shifting the perspective inside so that the energy on the outside and the whole conversation shifts. And when you were saying that, I was imagining somebody who doesn't like a policy, like I have to come to work policy, but they're a producer. Well, instead of complaining about the policy, shift the perspective and come from, look what's possible. Look at all the stuff we just got done and we're all remote. And how could we take it to the next level? So how about the person who decides it's time to go now? I need to go find a new 5-star experience. So any ideas for how to begin that process? Does it look different when you're leaving your job versus when you're committed staying in your job?
I think that no matter what the bad circumstances, whether it's someone saying no to a policy or I need to leave this place and I don't know what the new place is going to look like or what I'm going to do, is the only reason we normally get irritated and rush things or fear that things aren't going fast enough is because we actually don't trust we're going to get our end outcome. I always like to play the long game. Okay, so this circumstance is temporary. I'm going to put a deadline in my head, but that doesn't mean I'm going to force it to happen by that deadline. I'm just going to see this as temporary while I continue to look for the ways that the things I want to do to create that 5-star experience now. I know a lot of people won't leave. I don't recommend leaving if it's financially going to give you heartache. That's going to end up stressing you out and you're going to end up making a poor choice because you're choosing from a place of scarcity and desperation versus, now this looks like a 5-star next step. So I would do whatever you can to pad your savings, make sure that you're giving yourself time and space before you choose. I know a lot of people are just like, I can't take it anymore. Well, before you just up and quit and cause yourself more stress, I would start looking for, you and I talked about this before, and it really does work. It sounds so small, but looking to have a gratitude list about what is working at the current job. I remember I had this woman come to me, and the whole reason she came was, I have to get out of this job. It's killing me. I call in sick. I cry. I don't want to go in. And I said, I know you're not going to like this, but really your homework for the week is to at least 5 things a day that you appreciate about working there. She's like, there's nothing. I'm like, hey, I don't care if you just dig the decor in the hallway. You got to find things. You got to refocus your energy. Next week, she came back. She's like, you're never going to believe this. I ended up having this cool conversation with this person that never talks to me. All these interesting things happen. It actually wasn't a bad week. Now, she didn't fall in love with her job, but it was a different experience.
Yeah.
She ended up staying in that job for another 2 years because she ended up loving it, and then got a severance package because they were shutting everybody down. But let me soften the resistance energy, the frustration energy. Otherwise, I am going to carry that with me into the next job, and I'm not going to get a 5-star experience. I'm not. I'll just create new problems in a new place. Is what I'm going to do.
Yeah, it's interesting that you call it the resistance energy. That's, we do a lot of culture work, which is a lot of change. And the guy, typically it is a guy, but sometimes it's a woman. But I'll just use guys generically right now. They're not resisting because they want the change. So they're so excited and so passionate. And then they're so frustrated because no one else wants the change. And what it seems to be hidden from their view 99% of the time until we pull the bag off is they're only resisting because they're in fear. They don't understand why you're doing this. So let's slow down and engage them so they can have a dialogue and they can talk about it, make their own lists and start to get engaged. But it's, we at Keen Alignment, we say we do organizational or cultural alignment from transformation from the inside out. And you just keep saying it over and over again. It's probably rubbed off on me. Stuff rubs off. It's all about your perspective and your attitude. If you want to have a 5-star work experience, that lives within you. And then in your chooser, your antenna, what are you attracting? What are you going after? And does it fit? So is there any work around values, looking for a company that you believe in, or does that all show up in the writing of what's an ideal?
I do. I think we all have our personal values. I think that, the company has to have the values you want. So what do the values look like? What is not only the role what is your ideal role, but environment, location. And this is where you don't just go what would make this a fit? It's no, what would make this the best thing I could ever imagine happening more? It doesn't, you go man, that's so good. I didn't even think it was possible to get that thing I put on the list of what that 5-star experience would be. It's so good. I didn't even know a company did that, because it will unfold in this weird and wacky way where everything on that darn list becomes yours. But I feel no matter whether you're staying at your job or you're going to look for a new one, you have to be willing to play the long game, meaning it's the 5-star experience or I don't make a move.
Yeah, and so there's so many things popping in my head right now. I'm I want a 5-star experience for boyfriend or husband. I've not done that, and I know about this, but I've not done that, and it's interesting. I also don't have a deadline. But the other thing is the book.
Wait, that's important.
I know.
I think that, and I'll tell you a very super quick story. This little cabin that we got on the lake was something I had talked about since I was 20 years old. I'm a water ski fanatic. You've been on my boat before. I love water skiing. The dream was always to have a place on a lake. I talked about it. I looked. I talked about it. I looked. And then in 2020, I was talking to my coach and I said, man, I am tired of talking about this. something about my energy is off. And she's like, well, have you decided to have it? And I'm like, no, I have not decided to have it right now. I said, all right, by the end of August, we're going to be in that place. 30 days later, we were not only, did we have the keys before we even got the loan? The guy's like, you can move in, you can have all the furniture. I want your family to enjoy it. We're not going to wait. That'll be like into July. We want you to have this now. I'm like, who hands over the keys to strangers? Here, the cabin is yours. And I've been looking for 30 freaking years, but I had not decided to have it now. I decided to look.
Yeah.
I decided to take steps, but I didn't go, no, game on. This is happening. And I'm tired of talking about this. I'm going to have it. I'm moving it from talking and wishing into having.
All right. Well, this live stream, I am putting it into have to have it. The date, December. Oh, she's going to get me on recording. Right. So, great story about the cabin. We have a few more minutes, and this book by Jan and Stacy, Attracting Ideal Clients and
Attracting Perfect Customers.
Yeah, one of the things I remember is what do you want, and then what do you need to be to attract it?
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that there's a level of responsibility if you want something ideal. So let's say I want somebody who's fit and attractive and fun and responsible and financially abundant and loves to travel. Well, I got to be those things, because we all see the guy who's like 90 pounds overweight who wants the supermodel, and that usually doesn't really work.
You know what? I don't actually believe that you have to be all those things, but I do believe that you have to be willing, that you have to own that I get to have that kind of person who I need to show up like someone who knows how to attract an amazing man. I have to decide that I am amazing, that I am lovable, and I'm going to show up like someone who's comfortable in their skin because I get to have what I want. So I don't think I have to be rich. I could be totally overweight and attract an amazing, super fit guy if I saw myself as somebody who was worthy of that and was used to that. Gets to be my normal. It's like when we make a certain amount of money, if I say I want to make 7 figures a year, but I see myself still internally, I feel like a broke person all the time. It's going to be really hard to attract the opportunities and the results that I want, because inside I still feel like I'm a teenage girl who's got to scrap by, and I'm barely not bouncing checks or something.
All right. So epic endings, since we're getting to the end of the podcast. And if you decide that it's just time to go now, how do we create an epic ending to our career that isn't what we want it to be anymore?
Yeah, I would create, what does my epic exit strategy look like? Where I get supported. And even if they usually, how a lot of places, if you put in your notice, they're like, yeah, you're done, out, take your stuff today. If you don't want that, you can create a different scenario where it feels like, it's being celebrated and it feels easy. I would really map out, what does the epic ending for all the parts look like? The transition in between, how much money, the workplace, and move it from just wanting a better experience to, no kidding, I'm going to be in a new place by this date and it is going to be epic. And here's what epic looks like to me. And you can decide. I know a lot of times, especially if we have a mate or we have kids and there are people depending on us, it can be people around us can get scared because we're going to make a change. Mm. And so you can decide you're going to have epic support in the transition. That, if you need to take more time doing things at home and someone else needs to watch the kids while you prepare or you go, on an interview somewhere, although now it's probably by Zoom, how can you get everything to line up behind you and you decide you get to have your way? Like, it doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be the way it's always been. What if the next job you took was actually the first offer and it felt like the right thing, you took it, and it got to be that easy? Because some people say, oh, you got to go out and talk to, 10 different companies. Don't just take the first offer. But what if the first offer feels really damn good? I'd rather just find it out the first time out, right? Instead of like shopping for a year.
Yeah, it's interesting because as we're sitting here, a young lady called me out of the blue a little over a year ago, and said, I like what your company does. And we met for coffee, and she's down here right now and produces these. But she said, I want to empower women. Like, I have a passion to empower women. I said, well, we've got Ignite Power, and she's empowering men and women. But it's really shifted her whole career, and she just created that. She just created it and made a difference for us. And I wasn't interviewing. I didn't even have a job opening at the time. And it wasn't like, oh, we got to interview more people. And then we had somebody come to us from Santa Cruz University, UC Santa Cruz, and she applied for like a receptionist job or something right out of college. And I said, what's your degree in? She said, neuroscience. I said, do you know what we do? We do leadership development. It's all based on neuroscience. And her mind was blown. And so it's like Zoom just happened. I was looking for somebody, she wanted something that was fulfilling, and it fit. So Jeanna, you've made a big difference for all of our audience and everybody who follows me on LinkedIn and Facebook. How do people reach you if they want to have a 5-star experience of a life?
Woohoo, yeah. You can go over to masterpiececoaching.com, and peace is spelled Peace, like NRPs, masterpiececoaching.com, and tons of resources. There's a blog. There's even a fun truth or dare game you can play. It's like a spin the bottle, truth or dare, because we like to have things fun. So yeah, if you like what you see, there are lots of things there for you to poke around in.
All right. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time and your passion. And thank you for the difference you've made in my life.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's so fun to be working with 5-star clients, because all these years later, we still keep in touch.
Yeah. Thank you. I wonder if I was ever this person, though. I'm sure I was. What do you mean I can just create it and it'll happen? Don't you know how hard it has to be? All right, Jeanna, thank you.
Okay.